Guess we can add award-winning videographer to my resume now. Check it out. I got this award for the story I did for my station a while back, a few months back. A story about some of the workers that helped clear the World Trade Center. They worked on what was called the pile, and a lot of these guys got sick from breathing the air from the rubble and what was burning inside the rubble. So anyway, I got to participate in this story. I shot it with the reporter, and wow, we won an award for our efforts. Well, at least I won this one. Anyway, check out the videotape.
Making music.
Your volume's right here.
Raising his 3 children. That's how David Warby spent most of his time before September 11th, 2001. But what he didn't know, could have never known at the time, was his semi-retirement for practicing law was about to come to a crashing halt.
New York City cops and firemen were sitting there in street clothes.
It happened suddenly and quickly. The same day, this Rockland County man walked into the White Plains law office of Warby, Groner, and Edelman. A year and a half after 9/11, John Walcott, a married father, former Bedford high school hockey coach, and New York City cop, was trying to cope with a recent doctor's visit.
Within 10 minutes, he said, "You got leukemia." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "You got to go to the hospital." I'm like, "When?" He goes, "No, now. You have like a week to live."
But Walcott also told Warby something else disturbing. His former partner on the force, Richard Volpe, who also worked recovery at Ground Zero, was very sick with a failing kidney, and Volpe's doctor said he knew why.
He believes that my kidney situation is from 9/11.
But at that point, the police department had refused to establish a system to track and monitor illnesses related to the WTC dust, so both Walcott and Volpe were essentially on their own. They tried to contact a number of law firms, even some big-name lawyers like Johnny Cochran, but no one would listen until they met with David Warby. At the age of 50, the White Plains attorney knew this was going to be the case of his life.
My clients, they coughed up blood, they coughed up black soot. Their eyes, when their eyes teared, they teared black soot. They took black out of their ears. They came home and washed their clothes with their families. They were told everything was all right. How dumb was that?
At the time, the accusation unthinkable. Could the same government which told Ground Zero workers this toxic plume was safe to breathe now be responsible for their deadly illnesses? Warby immediately set out to prove the answer was yes. There was only one problem. No one in respected medical or political circles would acknowledge his theories or even the fact the rescue workers were getting sick.
They debate a $500 or $700 million memorial, and a nickel hasn't been spent to these people I represent.
So Warby set out to do his own research and at times got some help from a trusted source.
Benzene with dioxin.
This isn't dibenzodioxin, this is 2
Hour after hour, often late into the night, Warby researched deadly toxins with his teenage son Sam using Google and the internet.
I don't think anyone really knew just how big it was going to get.
So radiation, how about the relationship between radiation and dioxin? I'd be curious about too.
What Dad and son soon realized was that Ground Zero workers had inhaled a deadly combination of pollutants that no one had ever been exposed to before, and that somehow accelerated the latency periods for a number of deadly illnesses, explaining why so many people have gotten so sick so soon.
Where was the first cancer that you had?
In between the research, Warby's client list would grow by the day.
They won't pay for his chemo past 30 visits, $15,000 a week. What is he supposed to do? His sanitation worker, his union says there's nothing we can do. That's the only chemo we pay for. There's calls every day. Guy's gonna die.
In less than a year, 2 tragic illnesses turned into 24, but still, no one was listening.
You know what it was like? When the AIDS story first came out, no one wanted to hear about it.
So Warby held a press conference and invited the world's media.
And today, I am here to tell you we need a new rescue and recovery effort.
News 12 was there, but you could see less than a dozen other cameras showed up. Even fewer gave the story much more than 30 seconds airtime, despite the horrific prediction offered.
There will be more people, unfortunately, who will probably die from post-9/11 toxic problems than died on 9/11.
And in the months following that day, thousands of the sick would join the lawsuit. Still, the roadblocks would get even more intense. Warby was ripped apart in New York newspaper editorials, and almost as soon as he filed suit, the city, state, and federal governments all claimed immunity in the case. Still, Warby kept fighting for 9/11 responders like Sister Cindy, a nun from South Carolina who doctors say only has a few weeks left to live.
There are people like me who have given up.
In his recent and perhaps last trip to visit her down south, Warby listened to Sister Cindy's poignant wish.
Don't let them shut this down.
Once you start helping a person that way, and then they call you and they tell you that how much you're doing for them, and how much they care for you, and that you're their lifesaver, boy, you don't want to let them down. You just want to keep fighting for them.
Finally, 5 long years after the attacks that made his client sick, Warby's luck was about to change. With the anniversary fast approaching, everyone from CBS's Katie Couric to CNN's Anderson Cooper picked up the story. A long-awaited study from Mount Sinai was made public and found 70% of WTC workers are in fact suffering from some ground zero-related ailments, and some of them are very sick, even dying. Then, finally, the politicians jumped on board, calling for more testing and better benefits.
The people who were involved in rescue and recovery were victimized just as much as those individuals who perished that day.
Definitely calls for action well received by Warby and his clients, but their fight is far from over. Warby says billions of dollars will be needed for medical testing and for the family members left behind by what is now being called the second wave of 9/11 victims.
Over the next 40 years, we have to worry which cop's going to die from cancer and which baby might get it too from dioxin or asbestos. Who's going to get mesothelioma in 30 years? What nurse, what nun is going to die like Sister Cindy?
And like Sister Cindy, many of his other clients also think of Warby as their lifeline.
He was the one guy we found willing to help us and provide us with information.
Nobody's here, except for Warby, you know?
And even if it takes him the rest of his life, David Warby says he'll fight until every last one of his victims is provided for. His conscience won't let him do otherwise.
I've gotten to know some of these people. They come in with their families and with their children, and then they leave, and I come home to my beautiful, knock on wood, healthy children, and I think that they're going to be leaving this world by the hundreds, if not the thousands. It's a nightmare.